got certainly a challenge ahead of us here on Thursday. It's one of the hardest places I've ever coached in. I would say top 3 or 4 hardest places I've ever coached in. You'll see that those that are going to go to the game, it's a fantastic environment. Like our fans, they're smart and knowledgeable. It's just a tremendous environment. So that will be a great experience for our guys. The atmosphere will be a challenge, certainly. I think Creighton is a team, while they're young like we are, I think they'll be an NCAA tournament team. They have a lot of young pieces. They had some really key injuries last year that kind of impacted them, even though they still went to the tournament and had a really good season. But I think Greg's got a really good group, a lot of talented young players, gifted backcourt, good depth inside, terrific shooting, and they're always a team that's well coached. So going to be a great challenge for us on the road here.
First off, how's Andre doing with his back? Did he come through that okay?
Yeah, he's doing fine. He has, he's had some soreness, but that's really the extent of it. I think it's he's fine.
You've talked a lot about this early stretch to the season, and you've kind of been cursing how difficult you knew it was going to be. As you sit here at 2-0 and get ready for tomorrow, can you assess what you think of this 3-game stretch now as opposed to maybe what you thought of it a week ago?
I think it'll be interesting to see how we respond on Thursday. But as I've said, Adam, as a coach, you kind of get right. You look at the schedule, and I always want a challenging non-conference schedule, and then you get right up to the precipice of it, and you're like, maybe not so much. Maybe I'd prefer, but I do think that this has been good for our group, and I think regardless of what happens, this will be good for our group, and this will challenge us in a lot of ways. And I think we've played different styles, and I think that's helped us. And as I've said, as much as you can, you're trying to prepare your team to be sound in a variety of different areas, so that when you do play different styles and teams that present different challenges, you can handle those. And we'll see, because this team is fast and tremendous in the open floor and can really spread you out and can put pressure on the rim. So it's very different certainly different than our opener. Similar to last game, but they obviously have, more size and really gifted players.
In terms of that environment, how more, after playing at Cincinnati and having some veteran guys, how much more prepared do you feel this team is to handle the adversity of playing in that kind of a road environment? Yeah,
we'll see. I think, one game is a snapshot. We handled some of those moments really well, but I think you're a good road team when you're consistently a good road team, not when you're just one time. So we'll see how we respond and what our approach is and what our answer to some of the adversity that's going to come up, how we answer that in our play and how poised we are in those moments. I'm anxious to see.
You said throughout the offseason that Keyshawn's going to have to earn the leadership role with this team. In moments like this, when you're playing 2 of your first 3 on the road, does he maybe get more, range to lead because he's a guy who's played at Duke and he's played at all these very intense environments?
Yeah, I think so. I think leadership for our group is an ever-evolving thing. So that's why, I haven't been quick to say, hey, this guy's going to be this and this guy's going to be that, because, for this group, we really need to see it. And I think that Keyshawn is poised to have a real impact on that end, along with some of our older guys that we've talked about previously.
When you won at Butler at Creighton in 14-15, that was like a basket with like 2 or 3 seconds left.
Yeah.
What do you have to do to win there? Because I've seen really good Xavier teams go there and just get eaten up. And
yeah, they beat Villanova last year when they were 3rd in the country.
Yeah.
They don't lose there much at all. Their home record is phenomenal. And you can say that about a lot of places, right? You can go down college basketball and you can look at how people are at home versus the road. But their environment has an impact on the game. There is no question. I think obviously they shoot it really well at home. They play with great pace, home and away, but certainly at home they play faster. And then you have to deal with some of the noise and the confusion and the energy that their crowd is going to bring. And you have to do that by making really solid and sound plays. You got to be really good. There's no question. Like, I think this Creighton team is good. And if you're going to win there, you have to be a really good, you have to play a really good 40 minutes. Not perfect, but a really good 40 minutes.
You mentioned you think this is an NCAA team. What about them so far this year has given you that thought?
I think just when I evaluate kind of when you've looked at their young players that will only get better as the season goes on. Like I said, they've got a great deal of youth like we do. Like we feel that they're really talented young players. And I think, barring a significant injury, that program, Greg, their team has shown time and time again that they're capable of being that consistently. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. As a matter of fact, I think they will be a tournament team.
Chris, 2 games is obviously a pretty small sample size, but has there been anything through those 2 games that you've learned or has surprised you so far about your team?
I don't know if there's anything that's surprised me. I think that, I was asked about our freshmen. I think we felt like our freshmen, all 4 of them, at various times this year will make a real impact. How consistent that will be is kind of yet to be determined. But I don't know if there's anything, one thing that's surprised me because, we just went through 28 days with our guys. I do think that after evaluating the game the other night, that our shooting camouflaged some of our poor play. And I think our lack of effort at times, our somewhat lack of attention to detail at times, I think our shooting kind of camouflaged that a little bit, or how well we shot the ball. So those are things that I have to do a better job of coaching our guys on and making sure we're better in those areas.
This is a very different note than that, but it seems like already some former Ohio State players have been back and been through the facility to see their face on the wall and some of the basketballs and stuff that are recognizing them. I wonder where some of the idea for that came from and why that's important to have that around here.
Former players. Yeah, I think it's you're always trying to have your current players understand that they're a part of something. I've said that over and over, that they're a part of something, and we want them to continue to create something significant and special. So when you have the number of players that have come through here that have been accomplished in their time here and in their post-college time, and also, we have names up on the wall or guys that we're acknowledging that maybe aren't in the NBA, but they've done outstanding work beyond their college years. So I think that connection's really important. I think it's also important for, obviously for the former players to come back here and to see that and to say, hey, this place appreciates me and my time here and my efforts here. So both of those reasons.
The game has changed so much with regard to big men.
Yeah.
At this point, would it be a luxury for Ledee to play well, play more, or is it a necessity at this time?
No, I think we need it'll vary from game to game with Jay, but I think there's no question he needs to be ready every game. I told him I thought the minutes that he gave us in the first half the other night were positive and really encouraging ones. I think the time there from the second half, 10 minutes on is I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but the game was out of hand at that moment. So those minutes in the first half were really, really good. And he's got to build off of those minutes and provide some consistency. And, that's what it is for young players. A lot of guys can play well in one game. The real measure of how a player is maturing and developing is what level of consistency he can bring. We saw that with Creighton and JT last year. Those guys were so consistent. I mean, every game, you pretty much knew what you were getting with those guys. And that is the sign of guys that are both mature and good players.
I know it's hard to know about consistency right now since you played 2 games. But
yeah.
In practice, do you feel like this team has that ability to be consistent this year?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think time will tell. We have an interesting stretch here where one of the staff members reminded me that we have 4 games in 8 days, and it is coming at us. And we've got some teams that just when you look at kind of scores, you're like, whoa, those guys can play. So we've we'll know a whole lot more after these 8 or 9 days as we go through this stretch of 4 games. That's going to be a great test of how consistent we are.
Do you prepare any differently for a stretch like that?
Sure. Yeah, you try to do a little bit less hitting, a little bit less time where you are grinding your guys. We went pretty hard yesterday, but you want to get better, but you want your guys fresh in mind and body for that stretch because it's a lot. It's a lot on a kid.
I know you're not recalibrating expectations after 2 games, but when people from the outside take notice of your program, how does that affect you or not affect you?
I don't pay it one bit of attention. So, I mean, I appreciate your question, but at this point, all I'm concerned about is what we're evaluating on a practice-to-practice basis and game-to-game basis. It's way too early. We don't know how good we are. We don't know how good our opponents are. Maybe 15 games in, we'll be able to say, hey, we've been able to accomplish some things right now. We've got a long ways to go. So I really don't pay attention.
You had said that you'd maybe had some redshirting conversations, but ultimately basically decided you weren't going to. And then kind of wondered about Justin as that game went on, and then he comes in about 5 minutes to go. Were you close to redshirting him?
No, I mean, we've had conversations and thoughts with guys because there's great benefit in that. You see it all across the country with guys. Purdue, I think, redshirted 2 guys last year, and they're in their rotation right now. Obviously, one of Villanova's best players last year was a redshirt sophomore, junior, Bridges. There's great benefit in that, but those decisions are made before. I know you're not suggesting this, but I didn't have a little conversation with Justin and say, okay, I'm deciding we're not going to redshirt you, so go ahead and go in. Those are conversations are had before with player and family, and we had those thoughts, but I don't know that we got real serious with any guy because in some cases, like we're going to need Justin this year. We also are going to need him really to be ready next year. And sometimes having a year of playing as a freshman helps that.
Have you signed anybody today?
The thing I can say about that is we will have paperwork in a timely fashion, and some of that is you allow kids to do it, in the way that they want to do it, whether that's at a school or wherever. But I'll be able to comment publicly on that sooner rather than later.
Chris, sort of local legend how when the Westons were growing up, they would battle each other and play a little backyard basketball. Are you kind of now wishing that one of their parents was a licensed official so that they could have gotten that scrappiness and yet also a sense of where the line is?
Yeah, I think, both guys are aggressive kids. And, one of the things I love about Andre is I feel like he gets injured almost every practice. He sticks his nose in a lot of places. And, And, you know, part of it is, too, he comes off like he's got an old man's body, which he doesn't. But I just, you know, we have to do a better job teaching in video kind of what are fouls and what aren't. And then they have to do a better job of adjusting here early. But also, I don't want to take away their aggressiveness. You know, we need to be smarter with our foul situations. But, you know, we're not ever going to be a team that's probably going to lead the country in not fouling. You know, I think we want an aggressive mindset, and sometimes I got to do a better job coaching that with our guys.